So in today's world, though, you've just seen different decades of leadership and having this evolution of how people have managed, how people coach, how people, XYZ. So I guess in today's world, what are some of the biggest flaws that you're starting to pick up on that maybe people are losing touch with the core leadership qualities, or, just like a common flaw that you're like, man, leader, don't do this, or this is like a flaw that you just constantly see?
Well, first of all, I wrote a book, I don't know if you're acquainted with it, Sam, called Leader Shift. And this book is going huge right now because I wrote it 3 years ago and it's always done well. But when COVID hit, the whole issue of being able to be flexible, adjustable, move quick, pivot fast, this became the book. This has become the book all across. Everywhere. Everybody's saying, teach on leadership. Teach us about leadership. How do you downshift? How do you adjust? And the point being, the difference between managers and leaders is managers lead everybody the same. They want organization. They want everybody to be the same, stay the same, not change. And leaders lead everyone differently, and they know that. And so the difference is management kind of likes things to stay the same. Leaders understand that things are always going to change, and they realize the best leaders are going to get out on the front end of change and be creators of change instead of being resistors of change. And so when we see the COVID-19 or something like that, that throws a manager, but that doesn't throw a leader. Does that make sense?
All right, that was great, John. I honestly like this. This is really good. So another question that I have, because I've managed a lot of sales teams, and I think a lot of these people listening are sales leaders, sales managers. They're, managing commission 1099 type salespeople. And a big problem that we often find is, how do you motivate somebody that's commission only, 1099, they kind of eat what they kill, and they go in these like ebbs and flows of ups and downs. So like, what are some good tips and tricks that you would recommend to that leader that's trying to motivate or trying to get the guys to be more consistent?
Yeah, well, that's very common. That happens all the time. In fact, the challenge of every leader, regardless of who they're leading, is to keep their people moving. I mean, that's what leaders do. They move people, and people stop. People stop for different reasons. In sales, what happens is, when you had a good month and you did well, you have a tendency to say, okay, let's eat off of that month for a while, and you only kind of get back in when things aren't going quite so well. I really have I think a very solid answer, because I've had to answer that question a lot with people, and I out of my own practice, I have 7 companies myself. I really know what works, and what really works is very simple. Let's just say, Sam, that you and I were together, and let's say you were, eating what you were, killing and kind of going back and forth. I would just have a private conversation with you, and I'd say, Sam, I notice you have good months. I notice you have real low months, and just help me understand, because I want to lead you right and well. Talk to me about the low months, the high months. Why do you have that inconsistency? And what I've found, it goes back to my book, Good Leaders Ask Great Questions. What I have found is I lead always by questions. Because if I give answers, I own it. If I ask questions, they own it. And that is a huge difference. And so what I do is I'll share with them, I'll say, talk to me about your low months and why do you have that? And I listen to them. I listen very carefully to them. And after I listen to them, I ask them, okay, do you like low months? Is it kind of like you're okay with low months? Because if you're okay with them, there's not a motivational tool in my bag that can help you. I just have to realize this is who you are and this is what you're going to produce, and then give you the time that I'm going to give you based upon who you are, and so I really allow them to express themselves. And the reason for that is, if I allow them to tell me why they have low months in that whole process, very quickly 2 things happen. Awareness really rises, because when people say they're self-aware, they're not self-aware. The only self-awareness anybody has is somebody walked in their life and it made them aware of it. And because we all have blind spots. So when you start asking questions and interacting in that kind of a private setting, asking these questions, two things really come to fruition. And one is awareness. All of a sudden they think, wow, yeah, I guess I would rather not have low months. Well, let's talk about it in that whole process. And then the second thing is an understanding of how I'm going to lead you. I would look at you and say, when you have a low month, do you want me to kick you in the butt? What do you need from me? Or do you want me to let you go and just basically say that's who they are? And if that's the case, you're just going to give me leadership time for other people. And again, ownership and awareness comes out of asking questions, which just becomes absolutely huge because now they have to own it, and they're aware of it, and I have an understanding how to lead them.
I like that. So the question would be, do you have any go-to questions that you almost like have pre-recorded or like pre-scripted that help bring the fire out of somebody, that help them like, that kind of lights the spark and digs deep? Do you have any good like thought-provoking questions?
No, I have no desire to have a thought-provoking question. I have a desire though to know the person. Because when I know the person, Sam, then I'll know what question to ask them. I never go in with a preset of questions except the first one, which is basically help me understand where you are. And this is my observation, and is my observation correct? Because maybe I'm not seeing it correctly. But I always let the person at the conversation determine the next question, because I think that what's more important than a series of questions to ask is a seriousness about asking the questions. People can tell when you're authentic with them, and they can tell when you have, I've got 4 questions, I've got them laid out here. They can tell that versus, okay, I see where you are now. Oh, I had no idea. Okay, now I've got to ask this question. Now, when people say, okay, that doesn't help me very much, it does help you, and here's what I'm going to say to you. When people say, well, you've got a lot of wisdom there. I don't think I would have that wisdom to go into a conversation and let it unfold. They ask questions. And I would say you don't in the beginning, but that's how you get that wisdom. Wisdom is birthed out of experience that's tried. And so when I started off, I didn't know how to flow with those, with their life either. But the longer that I did it, the more I understood how to do it. And today, when people hear me do it, they say, John, you're a genius. I said, no, I'm not a genius. I've just done this 10,000 times, honestly. And, after a while, after a while, you just say, oops, that was a dead end. I don't think I'll go there anymore. And so you learn.
I love that. No, I think that it's people want to microwave mentality. They want to fast track. They want to just be an awesome leader right away. But it's going through those failures. Like literally today, I let a guy go, and it's scary going and trying to have a firing conversation. I'm not comfortable with those. Or, having a salesperson come to you and be like, hey, I'm not performing because my grandma and she's going through something. And you're like, okay, how do I navigate this? Like, do I be a dick and be like, just man up? Or it's like empathize and be like, okay, obviously you got your grandma situation. And it's like, this is a new one for me. Like, how do I... And then the 3rd or 4th time the grandma situation comes up, you're like, hey, I've dealt with this before. It didn't go well this time because I was kind of a dick. And so I think a lot of people try to fast track.
That's a great real life scenario. But one of the things I understand is grandma's good the first time. The second time grandma comes up, I say, well, let's talk. Is your grandma got a chronic issue here? We've kind of been here before, but see, I think it's very essential to have authentic conversations. I do not appreciate people not being truthful with me. I tell people I care for you too much to ever be fake, and I care way too much for you not to constructively try to help you. I'm not going to allow you to stay where you are. You may allow yourself to stay where you are, but I'm going to do everything I can not to move it. But what I tell people all the time in my organizations is, I unconditionally love you. So let's start right there. Your family. Okay. Now that we've got that settled, you have to earn my time. I don't unconditionally give my time out. You have to earn my time, and you earn my time by producing. You earn my time by producing. And so when you say, well, John, you're spending a lot of time over there with Joe, and boy, Susan's getting a lot of your time. I look at you very simply and say, it's because they're producing. When you produce like Joe and Susan, guess what? You get my time too. And so, you don't have to earn my love, but you do have to earn my time. And I'm very clear with that with everybody. And they understand that. And that really works. That really works. And so when they complain about not having enough time, there's a reason for that.
I like how you said, let's just get one thing out in the clear and just say it out front. I unconditionally love you. And I think that's been my hardest thing to convey when I'm trying to reprimand somebody or I'm trying to correct a behavior. I'm such a nice guy. Like, I want to see the good in everything. And my employees, some of my leadership team, they're like, Sam, you assume everybody's too good. And I'm like, I want that. I want to assume the best in somebody. I want them to be their greatest self. But I think I flaw in the element of, like what you just said, you earn my time by producing, and I'm trying to like standardize and be like, well, I got to give everybody time and I got to give everybody love because I love them and I want them to succeed. But I exhaust myself with the wrong people sometimes. And I don't know, I feel like that's always a common thing.
Always.
So at what point do you say
it's very simple. It is, Sam, it's very simple. I tell people, I say, I'll put a 10 on your head. And only you can take it off. I won't take it off. And so I'll put a 10 there. And then if you're not producing, I didn't take it off. You took it off. I always believed in you. I always wanted what was best for you. But behavior determines how successful you're going to be. So, and the other thing, one other quick thing I would say is we have when people become a part of our organization, we sit down and we just address things right up front. And one of the things we address right up front is, we're really glad to have you on the team. Let me explain something to you. We're going to have very tough discussions. I want you to know that right now. The day you're getting hired, there's nothing tough about getting hired. You just got hired, so go celebrate. But let me tell you something. We will have tough conversations. And we tell them that because you cannot have a working relationship with people. You can't have a marriage without having tough conversations. There's no such thing as anything that lasts without tough conversations. So what we do is we tell them that on the front end. So 3 months later, when I have to have a tough conversation, Sam, I go in and say, remember our conversation at the beginning that we would have tough conversations? Guess what? We're just about ready to have one.
Yeah. At what point do you kind of like you're a lost cause? Like you're just constantly coming into victim. You're constantly coming into story and it's not changing. Like, is there like a grading scale? Yeah, like
it's very simple.
At what point?
Consistency compounds positively and it compounds negatively. When you're consistently doing good things, you compound your value to the company. When you consistently don't produce, you're becoming a negative influencer. And so basically, I always say, it'll show up. It'll show up. It's not what you, and don't tell me what you're going to do. You got to show me what you're going to do. So I have no interest in your words. And it'll show up. And so we'll look and see what you did last month. Oops, it showed up bad again. And so what it basically says, I don't fire you. You really fire yourself. I just let it happen.
Man, this is wise. Anybody listening to this, I feel like you're just coaching me right now. And maybe I'm being selfish and just taking this wisdom from my company because I have several different little companies and 30-something employees now.
Well, it's because you're talking. It's because you're talking to an old man. When you talk to old people, you get wisdom. That's what happens.